That's just like everyday church people. We want to use God when it's convenient. But if you're going back to Governor Christie's words about showing character, well, then my message would be to Governor Christie is let your yes be yes and let your no be no.
That's right.
And also the good book tells us that a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So the American people are watching you. How can we trust you if 1 minute you are attacking Trump, but then when President Trump is now in the forefront, then you come back and endorse him? This seems like this is a pattern of Governor Christie. So it's hard for the American people to trust you when you're not consistent in what you're saying.
I think there's no honor in any of them. I don't think there's honor in Christie. I don't think there's honor in Donald Trump. I believe these individuals have mechanisms of power. They have avenues to get to that power. I think Chris Christie has simply chosen an avenue more so than a transformational dynamic has happened inside of him. And all of a sudden he feels like he needs to save the world from Donald Trump, because that sentiment was not there while he was working for Trump, nor was it there while Trump was president of the United States, still having access to power. Why do you think it's so difficult for Republicans to just simply check power? And I say this in all due respect. I have the check power, you have the check power. I have the check power on the right, I got a check power on the left. I got some folk I'd rather be friends with, but it is necessary for me to call out when necessary. You have to be able to check. Why don't you see that on the right as much anymore?
Because it's a lack of integrity. Because if I am your friend and if I love you, if I care about you, then it is my job to tell you, Dr. Ritchie, that you are wrong about something. That doesn't mean that I am against you. It doesn't mean that I am your enemy, but true friendship, true leadership, it is our job to tell people what they need to hear and not what they want to hear. We are looking at individuals who are used to getting away with so much. And now that they are being called out, now that they are being exposed, it's like little children throwing a temper tantrum.
Donald Trump obviously facing a lot of charges. You got Manhattan, you got the DOJ. You have Fulton County, Georgia. They're coming next with charges, I believe. And I think the DOJ is going to indict him again for his actions on January 6th. The indictment itself does not stop him from running for president. However, if he's convicted, it creates a significant situation. Number one, under the Espionage Act, there may be a caveat about holding public office or holding a position of public trust, but I think he may overcome that. Then it's the issue of being on the ballot, because all Republican states have banned anyone who has a felony conviction from being able to actually vote or run for political office. They would have to literally change the law in order to allow him to get ballot access. What say you to that potential reality?
I wouldn't be shocked if some of the Republican states, if not all of the Republican states, did change the law to make it convenient for President Trump. I think that we're living at a time where President Trump, it's amazing that President Trump is a man. For example, he encouraged police to be rough. He told police, don't be too nice to suspects. He said, don't worry about for people that are in custody hitting their heads on squad cars. But now that the tables are turned, ladies and gentlemen, this is a man now who plays the victim. This is a man who said he would not apologize for the Central Park Five of 5 wrongfully convicted African-American and Latino men who were wrongfully convicted of raping a woman. But now, ladies and gentlemen, under the sound of my voice, for this man to be the first president in our nation's history to be indicted on charges, now he is the victim. He didn't care. Now he's criticizing the police, but before then, he was telling police officers to not be nice to suspects. What happened to the 6th Amendment of not having cruel and unusual punishment? So I say that I would not be surprised if Republican states like Texas, Kentucky, the states of Florida would not change laws that would make it convenient for them.
So fascinating and honestly so true. Dear sister, always a pleasure having you on the program. Thank you for all you continue to do to advocate for communities who need it. How can people follow you, check out your great work?
You can follow me on Instagram at tiffany.m.lloyd. You can follow me on Facebook at Dr. Tiffany M. Lloyd, and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Jesus and Justice with Dr. Tiff. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Looking forward to have you back.
Thank you.
All right. Remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.
Hello and welcome to Unbossed. I am your host, Nina Turner. And in the co-host chair today, we have none other than Jessica Burbank in the house, baby. And Jessica,
it's good to be here, always, every time.
So glad to have you. And Jessica is a TYT contributor. As you can see, she's with me weekly. And Jessica, I want to know, and I think our viewers want to know as well, what is happening in your other worlds?
Yeah, we're talking a lot about the debt ceiling fight, which is going to be a recurring one. Social Security potentially being cut, the rumors that it's going to be insolvent or run out of money. And we're doing it on Snapchat. I'm covering the news on Snapchat now, which is exciting.
That is a beautiful thing. And that is More Perfect Union?
Yeah, so there's a lot of videos getting posted with More Perfect Union on Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. It's going to be at Burbank, K-A Burbank.
Very, very good. So you guys don't want to miss what is happening with Jessica in her other worlds. I mean, edge of the seat, good. So today's first segment that we're covering earlier this week, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy was on Fox and Friends and was asked about the infamous George Santos. Take a look.
George Santos, are you a part of his re-election campaign?
No, I am not.
Right.
No, he shouldn't run for re-election.
Have you done anything for that seat to try to get a Republican in?
Oh, we're gonna keep that seat with another Republican. Yes, we are.
We're gonna keep that seat with another Republican. Yes, we are. It took him long enough to say that, and Santos himself did not take the speaker's comments lightly. He weighed in on this on Twitter. This is what Congressman Santos had to say. Dear media, I plan on continuing to serve the people of New York 3, providing excellent constituent services to the people of NY 3, and proposing common sense conservative legislation for the betterment of our nation. Speaker McCarthy's comments do not change my intention of running. I know that Congressman George Santos is using the word serve very loosely. And he has not done much representing, but he has done a whole lot of defrauding. And that is Congressman Santos. Santos, who faces a 13-count indictment in federal court in New York for a litany of crimes or criminal charges, including fraud, money laundering, and theft of public funds, has nonetheless vowed to seek re-election like any good grifter. Prior to that 13-count indictment, we of course know Santos had already made a name for himself by fabricating his past. Let us remind you of some of the things he said about his own past, his mother's death on 9/11, an early Wall Street career, his Jewish heritage, claimed he was a producer for the Broadway musical Spider-Man, Turn Off the Dark. Jessica, I can barely contain myself right now. I can't.
What a brilliant guy.
I just, go ahead, Jessica, weigh in now, because let me get myself together.
Yeah, I mean, seeing the Spider-Man one is a big one. Out of all the things Congress people lie about in the United States, Santos has just gone for the comedy. He said, forget it, I'm just gonna make myself memorable. The way he made his profile photo on Twitter right now as himself with sunglasses on and a bunch of cameras around him is hilarious. Just the litany of criminal charges and the litany of controversies and absurd lies told for no apparent reason. It seems that he's doing it all for fun. And as much as I enjoy watching, hearing McCarthy laugh about it as well, I don't know how I feel about that. The way McCarthy's so confident they can just get another Republican in there, it's just gonna be some random guy, potentially. Someone just like George Santos, someone wearing glasses and the fake nose again with a false identity and just makes up their resume as well. I think let's just keep the trend going.
Yeah, that's how they like their Republicans. I mean, Jessica, you know what? I really believe that George Santos is preparing for his next career as a reality TV star. I really do. Yeah. We shouldn't sleep on the brother. That's what he's preparing for, his next job. Now, prior to that 13-count indictment, well, we know prior to the 13-count indictment, he fabricated all kinds of things that we listed. And as of May this year, a vast majority of Americans think Santos should resign. Here's the graph of that. Do you think George Santos should resign his seat in the House of Representatives? In that beautiful purple, we see 64% of Americans say yes. 21% not sure, and 15% no. But that does not stop George Santos, who probably thinks he's a mini-me Donald Trump. So he's just gonna keep the lies flowing and just hope that people forget, or he's just gonna wait it out. That's what Republicans are very good at, just waiting it out and taking advantage of the short memory that many of us have. Congressman Santos is the gift that keeps on, or Santos. Jesus, I can't keep Santos, they all the same. It's the gift that keeps on giving. We will have more on him, I'm sure, as the days and months go by. Now, speaking of McCarthy's support for Trump, that was tested yesterday in this interview. Take a look.
Trump's been indicted. His poll numbers are going up, so primary voters like him. If he wins the primary, do you think he can win the general? And is it good for the Republican Party if Donald Trump is the nominee? Look. And then I want to get to Biden and his malarkey defense and all that stuff.
Can Trump beat Biden? Yes, he can beat Biden.
Is that a good thing for the Republican Party if Donald Trump is the
Republicans get to select their nominee. I think if you want to go sheer policy to policy, it's not good for Republicans, it's good for America.
Win an election? Could he win an election?
Can he win that election? Yeah, he can.
You think he can?
The question is he the strongest to win the election? I don't know that answer, but can anybody beat Biden? Yeah, anybody can beat Biden. Can Biden beat other people? Yes, Biden can beat him.
Can anybody beat Biden? Can Trump beat Biden? I'm not sure. The primary voters will decide. This is what Speaker McCarthy went on Fox News, and he was very confident until the backlash started. McCarthy questioned strength of Trump's candidacy, then quickly backtracks, because it's nothing like the megas coming after you, baby, to make you rethink what you said on national TV. The House Speaker angered Donald J. Trump's allies by saying he did not know whether the former president was the strongest candidate to beat President Biden. I mean, these days you just can't even be honest, because the megas will come for you. Now, what's perhaps even more hilarious, what McCarthy did immediately after. The comments irked Mr. Trump's allies, setting off an urgent effort by Mr. McCarthy to walk it back. He didn't just walk it back, baby, he ran it back. He contacted Breitbart News, the right-wing news outlet, to offer an exclusive interview in which he said the former president was stronger today than he was in 2016. You better say that, baby, to save yourself. And blamed the media for, quote, attempting to drive a wedge between President Donald J. Trump and the House Republicans. Damn the media for allowing Speaker McCarthy to speak the words out of his mouth. Yeah, they put those words in his mouth. Don't believe your lying eyes or your lying ears. It was the damn media that made him do that. This is just another example of McCarthy's cowardice when it comes to dealing with President Trump. The hurried attempt at ingratiating himself to Mr. Trump underscores Mr. McCarthy's fears of alienating the former president as he struggles to keep together his fractious House majority and withstand mounting pressure from the right-wing lawmakers loyal to Mr. Trump. In other words, Speaker McCarthy knows who is in charge, baby. And it is Donald J. Trump when it comes to the GOP. Now, how can we forget McCarthy's flip-flop on January 6th? Let's rewind, take a look.
Newly released phone calls show Kevin McCarthy told fellow House Republicans shortly after the US Capitol attack, Donald Trump had acknowledged bearing some blame for it.
He told me he does have some responsibility for what happened. And he needs to acknowledge that.
One call, McCarthy expressed frustration with the former president.
I've had it with this guy. What he did is unacceptable. Nobody can defend that, and nobody should defend it.
In another, McCarthy said he was considering asking Trump to resign.
It would be my recommendation you should resign. I mean, that would be my take, but I don't think he would take it.
Now, this was way back in 2022. I've had it with this guy, and he needs to resign. This man has no spine and no backbone. He talked that smack behind President Trump's back, baby, but he will not talk it to his face. Yet less than 3 weeks after January 6th, Where was Kevin McCarthy, you ask? Here he was.
2 weeks ago, Republicans were condemning Donald Trump after the deadly attack on the US Capitol. Now some already appear to be softening their stance, rolling it back. The latest example, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. He met with the former president at his Florida resort yesterday. It's a turnaround for McCarthy, who is backing off his previous statement that Trump, quote, bared responsibility for the siege.
Let's just go ahead and give McCarthy a nickname of our own. Back off McCarthy. He not skipping, he running, because he knows megas are not to be played with when it comes to the GOP. He understands who his daddy is. Jessica?
Yeah, he certainly does, but he doesn't understand, and neither does Donald Trump. They don't understand how to stand with their arms. They're like, what do I do with my arms? In that photo, they look like they don't know how to be human, and it's their first day on earth. They're like, how do we stand when we're doing a photo in a lobby? And they're just like, it's the most awkward thing in the world. These guys are the least relatable people in the entire country. But I think McCarthy is a neoliberal. He doesn't like this brand of right-wing populism that Trump's bringing to the table, because it's a distraction from their misinformation campaign about how Social Security is going to be insolvent in 2033 or the next 10 years, how they're taking in more or taking out more benefits than are being paid into the program, and therefore we just can't afford it. When we don't have existing legislation to allocate the funds to the defense budget, what they do is they just write a new piece of legislation to allocate more funds. So they're deciding to bankrupt retirement on purpose. McCarthy has a very clear policy agenda for what he wants done in the country. Donald Trump is not as in deep as the neoliberals are when it comes to that kind of a thing. Donald Trump really runs on fear and this kind of culture war. And that right-wing populism is a distraction from the mission of the more conservative branch of the Republican Party, but they want to maintain power and they need people like Donald Trump's base to do that, because it turns out bankrupting your grandparents is not very popular among the American people.
There it is, the tsunami known as Donald J. Trump. Baby, we'll have them backing off. But yeah, you're absolutely right about that, Jessica. Well, we will continue to report on the episodes of Backtracking McCarthy. Now we're moving on to Senator Rick Scott. He issued a travel warning to socialists, to communists, and those who believe in big government. Take a look.
Senator Rick Scott here. Let me give you a travel warning. If you're a socialist, communist, somebody that believes in big government, I would think twice. Think twice if you're thinking about taking a vacation or moving to Florida. We're the free state of Florida. We actually don't believe in socialism. We actually know people, and some people in our state lived under it. We know people lived under socialism. It's not good. It's not good for anybody. So if you're thinking about it, if you're thinking about coming to Florida and you're a socialist or communist, think twice. We like freedom, liberty, capitalism, things like that.
Wow, but how is it living under the gluttony of capitalism, like unfettered capitalism, laissez-faire capitalism? Now, let's recap this. The man said if you are a socialist, a communist, or somebody who believes in big government, to think twice about coming to Florida. He said, think twice about taking a vacation or moving to Florida. We are the free state of Florida. We like freedom, liberty, and capitalism. We don't believe in socialism. It's not good for anybody. Now, my stunt double had to weigh in on this per usual, and she's usually right most of the time. This is extremely inappropriate at best, a threat at worst. Yeah, because he said don't come here. And it's basically don't come here or else. Or what? What, Senator Rick Scott? What is going to happen if a communist, a socialist, or a big government type, what if they do come to vacation or move to Florida? What exactly is going to happen to them, sir? Explain yourself. Now, it's amazing how the GOP prides itself in the art of division. And my stunt double is correct, as she often is, that Senator Scott's warning is extremely inappropriate at best and a threat at worst. Now, his comments about how Floridians believe in freedom, liberty, and capitalism, which Floridians is he referring to? Inquiring minds want to know, how can one be free if one is always in survival mode or in constant need? Let's put up these stats. Let's let the empirical data show us just how free Floridians are. Nearly half, or 45% of working Floridians, are living in or near poverty or in households that are one missed paycheck or lost job away from affording basic needs. Nearly 2 in 10, or 17%, of Florida's children live below the federal poverty line, which means earning less than $26,500 per year for a family of 4, ranking Florida as 35th among other states. But let the good times roll. Let that freedom just ring for them. And the majority of these children, 71%, are Black or Latinx. Children living in poverty are more vulnerable to low academic achievement, dropping out of school, abuse and neglect, behavior and social emotional problems, physical health problems, and developmental delay. Now, is this the type of freedom that Senator Rick Scott is referring to? Instead of threatening folks, he should put his energy towards changing the material conditions of the people who live in the state of Florida and less on playing games. But as my grandmother would say, that would be too much like right, as in doing the right thing. And that is not in Senator Rick Scott's nature. Jessica, your thoughts?
What a terrible guy, man. I think most Americans that were alive during the Cold War and McCarthy era, when they hear socialist communists, they think bad things. They think of a centrally planned economy that's run by authoritarian figures. Having a planned economy is not very different from what we have right now. Think of who the authoritarian figures running the economy and making decisions are. Who creates money? Who gets to decide who has access to capital? It's people with capital already, so wealthy people who got it through exploiting slaves or stealing land when they first got to the United States. And it's big banks who make the choice which businesses actually get the funds to operate in this country. That's a centrally planned economy. It's just not the traditional government running it. But when we have the consolidation of economic power in the United States, the consequence is this type of stuff that Rick Scott participates in, which is running a private hospital and committing fraud to collect $631 million from federal programs like Medicare and Medicaid. These are public dollars that are supposed to help the people. And instead he runs a private corporation and takes it and commits the largest case of health fraud in the history of the country. That's what he did when he was CEO of a hospital. So he's exactly the guy he's telling us to be afraid of. So I think Rick Scott should probably instead worry about, I don't know, getting a job instead of where I go on vacation.
Yep, he likes let that freedom ring as long as it's ringing for him and his ilk and the owner donors that control him and so many others like him. All right, folks, Jessica and I will be right back after these messages.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richard. We got a lot happening today. But what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? It was a white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy. Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it though.
Climate is changing fundamentally, extremely, and non-linearly. It's becoming worse now. It's not when the levees burst that is the problem. It's in the anticipation of that.
So I hope every human being is safe. And by human beings, I do not include multinational corporations, especially the ones that started climate change in the first place.
What we're currently doing right now in cutting emissions is clearly not enough. There will be ramifications to what Trump is doing. I don't want people to suffer, but I feel like there's gonna be a lot of suffering because we have an imbecile as our leader.
And welcome back to the show. We want to thank the mods for keeping the chat clean, safe, and fun. We appreciate you on that. And don't forget to follow the Young Turks on all of our social media outlets. We need you. Just follow us. And if you're watching on YouTube, click the like button. All of that helps us so tremendously. And if you are not watching Unbossed live, that's okay. You can catch us on video on demand. And if you are watching live and cannot do that every single day, don't forget, you can catch us on video on demand. And find TYT on Snapchat and TikTok by searching for @YoungTurks. And don't forget to follow. You can also watch our shorts. Baby, the Unbossed shorts are the best. I might be a little biased, but I want you to watch those shorts and click the like button. All right, on to my favorite part of the show. We're going to Twitch first. Jay Mullen, do two liars cancel each other out? That is a good question, Jay Mullen. Now, hopeful heart and open eyes. Idiosyncrasy was a comedy. Reality is not, but it's best to look at our politics that way too. Any one of them up for next election doesn't look good. Lesser of two evils to pick from, again. You got that right, hopeful heart and open eyes. I'm right with you. I mean, the lesser of two evils is still evil, baby. On YouTube Super Chat, Henry Downs, two of my favorite women, love you both. Y'all enrich my day. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Jessica and I. We do receive that, baby. Yes, we do. And Hernie Weber, no, we don't want an effective Republican to take his place.
We'd rather have our gay villain. Let us keep our gay villain. We don't want an effective member of Congress.
No. Oh my God. Pink love Jessica. Grown up toddlers.
That's good. That's right.
Ain't that the truth? Now, when we started something toddlers though, grown pink love Jessica, I don't know. You know, TYT, our TYT members, Crystal Braden. Hey, Crystal, you running strong this week, baby. I assume Santos means he continues to serve the people of NY3 with lies. Seems like that's all he served up so far.
He really does need a show, The Real Congressman of Nassau County, and you just follow him.
Ain't that the truth, Jessica? I'm telling you, the man gonna rake in millions legitimately for a chance when he get that reality TV show. He is a reality TV show waiting to happen, guarantee you. And then Michael Wright. Oh, before I forget, Nina 2024. Oh, Michael, thank you so much. Now, you know this whole country, the world would explode, baby. They ain't ready for this black girl magic, but I appreciate you. And each and every one of you who commented today, those of you who are watching us live, and for those of you whose comments we could not get to today, we appreciate you so very much. We could not do what we do here on Unbossed or the TYT network without you, boo. We appreciate you so very much. Now we are about to talk about another great historical figure. Her name is Kari Lake. Kari Lake revives Obama birther conspiracy with no mention of donation to the campaign. That's right, hypocrisy just flows like water on the GOP side. This headline right here, Trump backed Kari Lake, not doors for Obama, former colleague says. But you know what? We're not gonna let the truth get in the way of a good story. That's what Kari Lake has right now, a very good story, not a whole lot of truth. Lake running for Arizona governor as self-proclaimed only conservative in the race, but she forgot to tell the people she knocked doors for President Obama. In a new book, the Trump ally and potential running mate, Kari Lake, blows a birther racist dog whistle to supporters, claiming Barack Obama had a mysterious past. Because yeah, the first black president obviously had to have a mysterious past when he ran for president, but does not mention that she donated to Obama in 2008 and reportedly campaigned for him door to door too. Baby, she was all for that hope and change in 2008, but she don't want y'all to know that. Lake donated to his campaign to the Democratic candidate for president in 2004, John Kerry. Oops. And 2008, Obama. Oops. She has said that she has said the Obama donation was made by her husband. Blame it. Damn it, woman, ain't you an independent woman? Huh? Blame it on the man. Is that what we doing now, ladies? Because that shows true. We done really made it. When we can turn that thing around and blame it on the man. Y'all go ahead and put that on back up. I wasn't finished. Y'all know I can't help commentating through this. I'm trying. She has said the Obama donation was made by her husband while insisting there's nothing wrong with having been a Democrat before turning Republican. You got that right, sis. Ain't nothing wrong with it. You got a right to change your mind. You do. I support it. Change your mind anytime you want to, but just don't blame it on the man. Own up to it. Be a woman about it. Woman up. Don't blame your damn husband, lady. What's wrong with you? You setting women back. Oh, Jessica, come on in here. I'm really out of control right now.
Yeah, when I was in Iowa and I was knocking doors, there would be women who would answer the door and she'd be like, I don't know, I just have to ask my husband. It's like, will you caucus for Bernie Sanders? Sorry, my husband said I have to be a fascist, my bad. So the answer is no. It is 2023, come on.
Come on, ladies.
Yeah, Obama's got a mysterious past of receiving donations from Kari Lake, that's the past. And if you look into how she became a public figure beyond her local news program, they started running this like competition at the network she was at to see who could get the most hits on social media. So more people would hear the stories, see the news network. And she got so addicted to this competition and the attention. And she realized if she commentated on Donald Trump a lot, those videos did the best. And that's how Kari Lake rose to become a Trump supporter and a public figure, because she's literally addicted to attention, not because her husband changed his mind about what direction they should go or she had a change of heart. It was literally just for the attention. And I think she's continuing on that path.
Inebriated. That's it, attention, baby, gets her high. Now in August of 2022, the Washington Free Beacon, a right-wing site, reported that an unarmed former colleague at Fox 10 Phoenix said Lake also volunteered door to door for Obama. The outlet said Lake's alleged behavior doesn't just contradict her rhetoric. Network policy bars employees from campaigning for political candidates. Let us give you some other quotes from Lake's book, because we know you're dying to know. The end of George W. Bush's presidency saw the complete and catastrophic collapse of the Republican Party, Lake writes in Unafraid. One Barack Hussein Obama, you damn right, baby, say his whole name, say his name, say his name. A man with a mysterious past and virtually no accomplishments on his resume ascended to the presidency, as if she got a whole lot of accomplishments. Jessica just told you how she became famous or infamous, depending on how you want to look at it. In America, we are not divided by religion, skin color, and the hundreds of other ways the left tries to separate us, she writes. We can have our differences, but it's our patriotism, baby, and love for our country and our Constitution that brings us together, because it ain't nothing like a Constitution, baby, to bring people together. But Lake shows little love for some members of the Biden administration she claims were only given senior roles because of factors including skin color. Kari Lake, baby. Woo, baby, you need to go read. I mean, come on, don't do it. Don't do it, don't bring it here, sister. I guess you're gonna blame your husband on this too. I just can't with you, Kari. But you know what? I changed my mind. I can with you. Come on, unboss. Please, come on. Let's do the dance. I bet you I'm gonna win, but we can do it. We can do it. Lord have mercy. We will continue to report on this historic figure, Kari Lake, and her sidekick, Congressman George Santos. Jessica and I were just talking in the break that maybe they need to have their own show. It'd be the Lake Santos show. It's coming to a reality TV. It's gonna be a reality TV show in the near future. Oh, moving on to other things, air quality. Chicago has the worst air in the world. Wildfires in Canada push Chicago to worst air quality in the world. Reminder that the environmental obstacles we all face, that we face, are interconnected, baby. There are no boundaries, there are no borders when it comes to the air, to water, or to food. We're all in this together. Now, what's happening in Canada has drastically affected the air of Chicago, New York. Residents in Columbus are urged to wear, or in Cleveland rather, in my right here in my backyard. I've been out today, and you can feel it, and people have been talking about it and complaining about it all day today. Cleveland, Ohio, we're feeling it too. Now, what's happening in Canada, is happening here in the United States of America. In other words, every time we think that the problem is somebody else's problem, we are reminded that it is all our problem collectively. This headline right here, Chicago's air quality, we're in the crosshairs. Wildfires and wind push region's air to worst in the world, Global Pollution Index shows. And it gotta be pretty bad for Chicago to be worse in the entire world. This next headline, Canadian wildfire emissions hit record high as smoke reaches Europe. There it is, interconnected. And as we just kind of look, some scenes of what's happening over Chicago, as of 11 o'clock a.m., the air quality index had risen to a level considered very unhealthy, according to Air Now, a website that combines data from county, state, and federal air quality agencies nationwide. This means everyone, and we do mean everyone, is at risk of experiencing health effects. We got to do something about this collectively. An update on the fire containment in Canada. According to reports from ABC News, there are nearly 500 wildfires burning throughout Canada in places like British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and the Northwestern Territories in Western Canada, as well as in Ontario, Quebec, and Nova Scotia. In Eastern Canada, according to the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center. Furthermore, nearly 260 of the active fires have been deemed out of control, and more than 17.7 million acres have been scorched so far this year, fire officials said. So Jessica, this is yet a reminder. I think that we constantly, as human beings, get reminders over and over again that we are truly interconnected, and we just can't turn our backs on people in other countries when something of this magnitude happens.
Yeah, I think the folks that are saying, oh, there's fires all of the time, this isn't a normal climate situation. It's not, it's really not. The amount of drought that's leading to fires and the amount of flooding we have in areas that aren't used to that level of rain is the kind of climate change we can expect when we keep polluting the planet like this. It's not global warming in the sense that it's gonna get hot everywhere. It's climate change in the sense that when we have the ice caps melting and the world gets warmer, it changes weather patterns and stuff like this happens. When you have really dry land and a lot of pine needles on the ground and lightning strikes it, those are the conditions that give us the wildfires in Canada. It's directly related to climate change. And this is kind of Mother Nature giving us smoke signals that stuff's about to get real, literally. And she's saying you don't want that smoke, but what we do is like pass policy in proportion to the problem as it exists. We gave people the Green New Deal and they literally rolled their eyes at it. So we have a chance to do something here and we need to do something big.
Yeah, we do. And you know what, Mother Earth is gonna outlast us. She's gonna have that last laugh. She's outlasted for millennia. And just the fact, our arrogance. I mean, Jessica, this really shows the arrogance of human beings. We're doing a disservice. Now we're moving on to the Supreme Court of the United States. They reject Norfolk's motion. Hello, somebody. I never thought I'd say this, but there is some good news when it comes to Norfolk trying to destroy everyone in its path. And the good news is that the Supreme Court of the United States said, get this mess out of here. We're not playing with you. Opponents of unmitigated corporate power celebrated Tuesday when the US Supreme Court rejected Norfolk's attempt to limit where companies can be sued. Common Dreams, thank you. In a 5-4 opinion written by Justice Neil Gorsuch and joined by Justices Clarence Thomas, Lord have mercy on all my souls, Samuel Alito, Sonia Sotomayor, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, the High Court ruled Pennsylvania's consent by registration law requiring an out-of-state firm to answer in the Commonwealth any suit against it in exchange for status as a registered foreign corporation and the benefits that entails does not violate due process clause of the 14th Amendment. Now this stems from a case long before the disastrous train derailment in East Palestine in February of this year. In 2017, months after being diagnosed with colon cancer, former Norfolk worker Robert Mallory filed a lawsuit alleging that his illness stemmed from workplace exposure to asbestos and other hazardous materials, and that the rail carrier failed to provide safety equipment and other resources to ensure he was sufficiently protected on the job. Now, although he never worked in Pennsylvania, Mallory filed his lawsuit in Philadelphia County Court of Common Pleas because his attorneys were from the state and he thought he would get the fairest access to justice there. Ashley Keller, the lawyer representing him before the US Supreme Court, told The Lever in February. And speaking of East Palestine, this ruling has major implications for the residents of this city. The American Association of Railroads, the rail industry's largest lobby, filed a brief last September on behalf of Norfolk, AAR, and other powerful corporate lobbying groups such as the US Chamber of Commerce, the National Association of Manufacturers, and the American Trucking Association. They sought to undermine the ability of workers and consumers to file lawsuits in the venue of their choosing. President Joe Biden's administration, meanwhile, came under fire earlier this year when The Lever revealed that the US Department of Justice had also filed a brief siding with the railroad giants behind the toxic derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. Yes, folks, America, you heard me right. And this is especially for the neoliberals. I'm gonna read this one more good time because it wasn't President Donald J. Trump. President Joe Biden's administration, meanwhile, came under fire this year when The Lever revealed that the US Department of Justice had filed a brief siding with the railroad giants behind the toxic derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, and Trump did not make them do it. Furthermore, if Norfolk had prevailed, it could have been easier for the profitable rail carrier to thwart pending and future lawsuits on the grounds that they're filed in the wrong venue. The Lever reported, citing Scott Nelson, an attorney with the Public Citizens Litigation Group, which filed a brief backing Mallory. At particular risk would have been lawsuits filed by residents exposed to hazardous chemicals as a result of accidents in other states, including victims of air or water pollution stemming from the disaster in East Palestine, 5 miles west of the Pennsylvania state border. And speaking of those residents, let us call back what many of them are still dealing with.
I had breathed in chemicals and I had a raw rash all over my lips that took about 3 weeks to get rid of. Just recently, like when it rains, my basement floods with chemicals and my nose starts gushing blood. I choke on it. It's terrible. And my house hasn't even been tested. It's not in priority for Norfolk Southern, but I'm getting sick every single day, whether it be a cough, a bloody nose, just fatigued. I mean, it's terrible.
And still to this point, it's still affecting you in that way.
Yes, and it's just been getting like progressively worse for me. Like my cough, my allergies, my nosebleeds. Like at first it was like one nosebleed here and there, and now it's constant. Like I have to worry about what I'm wearing because I'm scared I'm gonna get blood on my shirt.
Nobody can tell the story like the residents of East Palestine, and it is important for us to remind you that even though mainstream media, thank you Status Quo, although mainstream media has almost forgotten about East Palestine, we want you to know here on Unbossed, we have not forgotten about East Palestine, Ohio, and putting a face to what is happening there, and suffering is always, it's a good thing because we don't want you to forget and we don't want you to become numb. So Jessica, this is some really good news for people all over the country, but especially in this moment for the residents of East Palestine.
It's really good news because what we're seeing over the past week from the National Transportation Safety Board fact-finding hearing is that those rail cars may have been unnecessarily burned. So that means that folks have been harmed by what they did, breathing those chemicals in when they may have done it to cut costs, not because it was necessary. And so this ruling's a good one, that if you're doing business in a state, you can and should be sued in that state. If you do something as egregious as this, corporations, the fact that Norfolk Southern thought they could sue and bring this case to the Supreme Court tells you everything you need to know about how much power corporations know that they have in this country. So this is a step in the right direction.
It really is. I mean, the Supreme Court of the United States has been surprising me as of late between the voting rights stuff and this. My God, yeah, keep it up, Supreme Court. Keep going in this direction, all right? Oh, we're about to have a WTF neoliberal moment. Senator Chuck Schumer loves his owner donors, especially in the fossil fuel industry. And it has me asking, WTF neoliberal?
We will now kneel.
Miss Cinema, no.
You have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
Schumer, get off it! Put people over profit! Stop crossing guys, Schumer, stop crossing guys! Senator Schumer, get off it! Put people over profit! Hey, Schumer!
Oh, am I on?
Just fighting.
You're on, baby. For what? How did you get in here?
Get off it! Put people over profit! Get off it! You have grandchildren? You have
That was the activists of climate defiance. You heard the guy say, how did they get in here? They're letting it be known, baby. They taking the fights to the streets, taking it to the streets, those activists. And here's a tweet from climate defiance. Breaking, we just fully shut down a fundraiser headlined by US Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Schumer took $283,000 or 200 in there too from Next Era. In exchange, he green-lit the Mountain Valley Pipeline, because all you got to do is pay these people off and they'll do whatever you ask. This is a death sentence for us, so we shut down his event and we did not apologize. So glad that they taken it straight to the source, baby. And just in case there were any Brunch Bunch Chuck Schumer fans watching, we've got the receipts, because Brunch Bunch, I know you're out there. The reporting from the New York Times last year. Next Era Energy, a utility giant and stakeholder in the Mountain Valley Pipeline, is a top donor to both Mr. Manchin and Senator Chuck Schumer, Democrat of New York, who negotiated the pipeline side deal with Mr. Manchin. Mr. Schumer has received more than $281,000 from Next Era this election cycle, the data shows. The natural gas transport project would cut through 3.5 miles of forest underground, requiring whole areas be cleared for a deep trench. Its path would intersect 4 streams and pose a grave water contamination risk. If built, the pipeline would damage Jefferson National Forest's beauty and put its wildlife at risk. This is absolutely dangerous. So Jessica, I'm glad to see Climate Defiance take it to the streets, i.e. taking it straight to the donors.
Yeah, direct action is good and necessary. I think we all know we're not going to be able to vote a lot of these establishment candidates out of their seat right away. So what do we do with the circumstance we have, which is Schumer's going to continue to hold that seat and be in power, and a lot of neoliberal politicians like him as well? Direct action. That's the only path forward. Power will concede nothing without a demand. We've got to make elected officials as uncomfortable as the decisions they make us. By destroying the environment, you're making the American people very uncomfortable. And so there are a lot of folks who criticize direct action by showing up there and chanting and occupying his office. That's necessary. Make him uncomfortable. Make him understand the consequences of his actions, because clearly he thinks he can treat the environment like it's just a pawn in the game. He can treat his constituents and the people that will be affected by things like this as if they're pawns in a political game, and there's real people on the other side of this. And I think direct actions remind them of that as well.
Oh yeah, exposing the hypocrisy. And your quote of power concedes nothing without a demand, as Brother Frederick Douglass. And he also talked about your point about people don't like direct action. He also talked about how people want crops without thunder, without rain. You want all that, but you don't want to go through the motions that it takes to get that. And often it is not pretty. So Climate Defiance, thank you so much for what you're doing. Now we gotta go back to Mountain Valley. For the developer of Mountain Valley Pipeline now has a clear path to finishing the project because they paid off the politician, but it also has literally tons of aging pipe that has been sitting out in the elements for as long as 6 years. That's a potential safety problem, according to experts, manufacturers, safety advocates, and opponents of the pipeline. Sunlight and rain degrade the epoxy coating on the pipes that prevents corrosion. Damage to the coating increases the risk of ruptures and explosions. Now, while he was getting hundreds of thousands of dollars in from these developers for the horrendous project, Schumer had the audacity to tweet this last year. Here it is. The facts are undeniable. Climate change is real and only getting worse. On Earth Day and every day, we continue to fight for real action to tackle the climate crisis for good. Lord, y'all, don't believe nothing that comes out of these people's mouths. Follow the money always. And a reminder for the pipeline loving Schumer, building more pipelines could drive climate change for decades to come. Even just one additional large-scale pipeline could lead to millions of metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions annually, the equivalent of adding dozens of coal plants or millions of passenger vehicles. We see you, Senator Schumer. We see you, Joe Manchin, and shame on President Joseph R. Biden for approving this project. Shame on you. All right, Climate Defiance, baby. Y'all keep making them uncomfortable. Now to some good news. Yusef Salaam has a primary victory, baby. Central Park 5, or the exonerated 5 as they are known as now, Yusef Salaam wins the Democratic primary city council primary in Harlem, New York. New York City Council elections will be held on November the 7th of this year, but Yusef won the primary. With 98% of scanners reporting, Salaam 49 garnered 50% or 5,403 votes. Salaam is a board member of the Innocence Project and founding member of Justice for the Wrongfully Incarcerated. I'm here because Harlem, you believed in me. Harlem has spoken. Yes, they did, baby. Yes, they did. And let's go ahead and put up the graphics so folks can see who else was in that race. You see all these folks, and we see who won this primary. Now, Trump hates the exonerated five and will not apologize. Many of you may have seen the special. If you have not seen the special, you need to watch it. But here we are, President Donald J. Trump, this headline, Trump doesn't apologize to Central Park 5. You have people on both sides of that. He always talking at both sides of that smack. 34 years ago, Donald Trump took out a full-page ad in the New York Times demanding the death penalty for the Central Park 5. Now, as Trump is facing his own prison time, Yusef Salaam is on his way to be the New York Council member for Harlem. How you like me now, President Donald J. Trump? And we want you to take a look at this.
He said, of course I hate these people. And let's all hate these people, because maybe hate is what we need if we're going to get something done. I mean, it's incredible when a reporter asks me whether or not I have compassion for the people that did this crime. I have absolutely no compassion.
April? Mr. President, will you apologize to Central Park 5? They've been exonerated. There have been videos and movies shown about the case, and you came out with a full-page ad saying that they should die. They should have the death penalty.
Why do you bring that question up now? It's an interesting time to bring it up. You have people on both sides of that. They admitted their guilt. If you look at Linda Fairstein and if you look at some of the prosecutors, they think that the city should never have settled that case. So we'll leave it at that.
Now, we already know that President Donald J. Trump has no shame. The exonerated five, right? They were exonerated, and even in the face of the facts, this president is so arrogant and so narcissistic that he can't even admit that he was wrong. So Jessica, so happy for Mr. Salaam, glad that he won this primary, and I do hope that he wins the general election in November.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing that people come up to him. He said this in a TV interview when he was running, and tell him that they give them hope. That tells you everything you need to know about the state of our broken systems of justice in the United States, that this is not some obscure case where there's no others like it. The fact that people say this gives them hope means that this happens on a pretty frequent basis. And the fact that he was exonerated and able to run again, giving people hope, that tells you how prevalent the problem of wrongfully accused people being convicted, especially people who are Black in the United States. It's a huge problem in the United States. And I think someone who has experienced the broken systems that we have are probably the best people to repair or tear down and build better and new ones. So he's so qualified to be in the city council. We need more people like him in positions of power and representing people in a way that traditionally in these gerrymandered districts, we don't have representation that does that.
Yes, and he beat the status quo candidate. He beat the candidate that the mayor was pushing for, and that was Inez. He did, and I mean, it really shows that people see through the neoliberalism, and they're tired of the same old politics. And so, yeah, Yusef is going to be a tremendous addition to the city council representing Harlem. He just has to get through that primary. And it's my hope, Jessica, oftentimes when people, and I'm sure he has, his advisors around him, you got to run just as hard. He has to run harder in that general, cannot rest on his laurels and get all the way through to November so that we ensure victory and have somebody with his experience, his life experience, more importantly, on that city council.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a tough district to be running in, right? When we see gentrification in New York and Queens and Harlem, we see people move in because they like the culture of the area, and then they move in and increase the prices of the homes in the area and push out the people that actually made the culture and community what it is. And I think he really ran in Harlem at a time when that's on a lot of people's minds there, because we see it starting to happen. It's definitely happened in Queens. It's already happening in Harlem. And to have someone like Yusef be their representative in this moment and run in this moment, things were ripe for him to win. And I'm glad that they got the representation they need before Harlem's completely decimated of the kind of community it's been for so long in New York. Seeing that happen in New York City as someone who grew up nearby has just been absolutely insane. Gentrification isn't just a problem of class, it's a problem of destroying communities and culture, and it oftentimes happens across racial lines as well.
It does, the fabric of the community. And we know that Harlem has a historic and robust history that must be celebrated and maintained. So brother Yusef, run, brother Yusef, run. We are rooting for you, darling. But that is our time here on Unbossed. We are so glad that you stopped by. If you are watching us on video on demand, thank you so much. For those of you who watched us live, you know how I feel about you. And Jessica, having her here on a weekly basis means so much to us. Please make sure that you catch her great work for a more perfect union. And as she said at the top of the show, you can catch her on Snapchat, delivering the news, baby, like only Jessica Burbank can. You know what
I'm keeping up the faith and
keeping up the faith in the fight. See, Jessica already did it to me. Do you not believe I made it through a show and I didn't throw any damn papers? What is happening today? I did not. All right, Jessica already said it, baby. That's what we want you to do. We want you to keep the faith always, 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 but marry that faith with a whole lot of fight. Until next time.